You really think you belong in seat 1A? The flight attendant's voice wasn't a question, it was a blade wrapped in velvet. This cabin is for elite members. The back of the plane is that way. She pointed a crimson fingernail toward economy, a smirk twisting her face as she blocked the aisle. Monica Hayes didn't flinch. She simply adjusted her hoodie, looked the woman dead in the eye, and whispered, "I suggest you check the manifest one more time, before you lose more than just your patience." The attendant laughed. It was the last time she would ever laugh on a plane. The humidity of the Miami afternoon clung to the air bridge, a stark contrast to the glacial, conditioned air that blasted Monica Hayes the moment she stepped onto the aircraft. She was exhausted. It was a bone-deep weariness that came from closing a $4 billion merger in 48 hours, fueled only by espresso and sheer willpower. Today, Monica wasn't the impeccably tailored CEO of Hayes Vanguard Global, the woman whose face graced the cover of Forbes and Fortune twice in 1 year. Today, she was just a traveler wanting to sleep. She wore an oversized, slate-gray cashmere hoodie, black leggings, and sneakers that cost more than most people's cars, though you wouldn't know it unless you knew the brand. Her hair was pulled back in a simple bun, and her face was bare of makeup, revealing the rich, deep mahogany of her skin. She stepped into the first-class cabin of Zenith Airways Flight 902, bound for New York. "Welcome aboard," a flight attendant said brightly to the man ahead of Monica. The man, wearing a rumpled suit and carrying a briefcase, received a dazzling smile. "Mr. Henderson, right? Wonderful to see you again. Let me take your coat." Monica stepped forward, clutching her boarding pass and her leather weekender bag. The smile on the flight attendant's face vanished. It didn't fade, it was deleted, replaced by a mask of cold, scrutinizing suspicion. The name tag on her pristine navy blue blazer read, Karen. She was tall, blonde, and projected an air of authority that bordered on hostility. She looked Monica up and down, her gaze lingering on the hoodie, then the sneakers. "Boarding pass," Karen said. No greeting, no smile, just a demand. Monica held out her phone, the QR code illuminating the screen. "Seat 1A. Karen didn't scan it immediately. She stared at the screen, then back at Monica, her eyes narrowed. 1A? Are you sure you didn't misread the zone number? Zone 4 boarding is in 20 minutes. You need to wait at the gate." "I'm Zone 1, Monica said, her voice low and smooth, a practiced calm that had disarmed hostile boardrooms for a decade. "And I'm in 1A. Karen let out a sharp, incredulous exhale through her nose. She snatched the phone from Monica's hand, a violation of personal space that made Monica's jaw tighten, and held it up to the light as if looking for a smudge of forgery. Finally, she scanned it. The machine beeped a confirmation green. Karen looked disappointed. "Fine," she snapped, shoving the phone back at Monica. "But overhead space in first is strictly for luggage, not whatever that is." She gestured vaguely at Monica's designer weekender. "It fits," Monica said, moving past her. "Wait," Karen barked, stepping in front of Monica, physically blocking the aisle. The cabin was filling up. A wealthy-looking couple behind Monica sighed impatiently, but their annoyance seemed directed at the holdup, not the injustice. "I need to check that bag for size compliance. If it's too big, it goes in the hold. We don't want to crowd the paying customers." The paying customers. The implication hung in the air like smoke. "I paid full fare for this seat," Monica said, her eyes hardening. "Just like Mr. Henderson." "Mr. Henderson is a Diamond Elite member," Karen said, her voice raising just enough to draw attention. "Look, miss, I don't have time to argue with you. Hand over the bag or step off the plane. You're holding up the line." Monica felt the heat rise in her chest, the ancient, familiar burn of being underestimated, of being seen as an intruder in spaces she had conquered years ago. But Monica Hayes didn't throw tantrums. She executed strategies. She handed the bag to Karen. Karen lifted it, feigning struggle as if it weighed a ton, though it contained only a change of clothes and a laptop. "Too heavy," Karen declared, dropping it on the floor with a thud. "And too bulky. I'm checking it." "It contains sensitive electronics," Monica stated. "It stays with me. It fits under the seat, if not overhead." "I said," Karen leaned in, her voice dropping to a hiss, "it is being checked. Go to your seat, or I will have security escort you off for failing to comply with crew instructions. Do you want to cause a scene? Is that what you people always do?" The cabin went silent. The couple behind Monica gasped softly. Monica looked at Karen. She looked at the sneer, the arrogant tilt of the chin, the absolute certainty that she held all the power because she wore a uniform and Monica wore a hoodie. "Check the bag," Monica said softly. Karen smirked, a victor's grin. She tagged the bag aggressively and shoved it into a closet near the galley, not even the hold, just to prove a point. "Sit down and keep your feet off the bulkhead." Monica moved to seat 1A. She sat down, buckled her belt, and pulled out her phone. She didn't open Instagram. She didn't text a friend. She opened the Zenith Airways corporate hierarchy chart. She tapped the name of the chief operating officer. Then she opened her encrypted email app. Subject: Flight 902. Incident report. Level: critical. She didn't hit send yet. She needed the full picture. She needed to see just how deep the rot went. The aircraft, an older Airbus model, roared down the tarmac and lifted into the Florida sky. The fasten seatbelt sign pinged off, and the curtain between first class and economy was drawn shut with a decisive swish, sealing the elite cabin in a cocoon of privacy. Monica reclined her seat, closing her eyes for a moment. She wasn't just a passenger. Her company, Hayes Vanguard, had secretly acquired a controlling stake in Zenith Airways 3 days ago. The announcement was scheduled for Monday morning. Technically, Monica owned the seat she was sitting in, the uniform Karen was wearing, and the plane they were flying in. But right now, she was just an obstacle to Karen. The service cart rattled down the aisle. Karen was joined by a younger male attendant, Brad, who looked nervous but took his cues from the senior crew member. "Champagne, Mr. Henderson," Karen cooed to the man in 1B. "Please, Karen. You know I love the brute," Henderson chuckled. "Coming right up. And for you, Mrs. Vanderhoven?" she asked the woman in 2A. "A mimosa? Or perhaps a warm towel first?" "Mimosa, darling," the woman replied, casting a wary glance at Monica's hoodie. Monica waited. She was thirsty. Her throat was parched from the stress of the boarding process. She watched as Karen poured drinks, offered warm nuts, and chatted about the weather in New York with every single passenger in the 12-seat cabin. Finally, the cart reached row 1. Karen turned her back to Monica to refill Mr. Henderson's glass, laughing at a joke he made. Then, she pushed the cart past 1A toward the galley. "Excuse me," Monica said. Karen kept walking. "Excuse me," Monica said, louder this time. Karen stopped and turned slowly, her expression one of exaggerated patience, like a teacher dealing with a slow child. "Yes?" "I wasn't offered a drink." "We're doing the priority service first," Karen said smoothly. "We'll get to everyone else later." "Everyone else?" Monica looked around the cabin. "Everyone else has a drink. I am the only one without one." "Well, we're out of champagne," Karen lied. The bottle on the cart was half full. "Water will be fine. Sparkling." Karen sighed, a heavy, theatrical sound. "Brad, get her a cup of water." She emphasized the word cup, implying a plastic cup from economy, not the crystal glassware the others were holding. Brad hesitated, looking between the crystal glasses and Karen's glare. He grabbed a plastic cup, filled it with tap water from a pitcher, and handed it to Monica without a napkin. "Thank you, Brad," Monica said, holding his gaze. The boy flinched, looking away guiltily. He knew this was wrong. but he was too afraid to speak up. Complicity, Monica noted mentally. 20 minutes later, the meal service began. The smell of roasted lamb and rosemary filled the cabin. Zenith Airways was known for its chef's table menu in first. Monica had skipped lunch to make the flight. Her stomach rumbled. Karen moved down the aisle with a tablet, taking orders. Rack of lamb, Mr. Henderson. Excellent choice. Sea bass for you, Mrs. Vanderhoven. She reached 1A. She didn't look at the tablet. She looked at the ceiling. Chicken or pasta? Karen asked. I'd like the lamb, Monica said. Pre-order only, Karen snapped instantly. I didn't see an option to pre-order on the app, but the menu says, We ran out, Karen cut her off. Mr. Henderson got the last one. Monica glanced at the cart. There were clearly 3 foil-wrapped trays labeled lamb still on the bottom rack. She pointed to them. There are 3 right there. Karen's eyes went cold. She leaned over, invading Monica's personal space, her voice dropping to a whisper that carried the weight of a sledgehammer. Those are reserved for valued customers, crew meals. You get what's left. Chicken or pasta? I don't eat gluten, Monica said calmly. Is the chicken breaded? Probably, Karen said, bored. Look, if you can't afford to eat before you fly, that's not my problem. Maybe you should have brought a bag of chips from the vending machine. I'll have the salad, Monica said, her appetite gone, replaced by a cold, hard knot of determination. Salad is for the side of the main course. We don't do just salad. Karen rolled her eyes and signaled Brad. Just give her the pasta. If she doesn't eat it, she starves. They dropped a tray in front of her. It was a foil container, clearly an economy meal brought up to the front. Macaroni and cheese that looked congealed. No linen, no silverware, just a plastic fork. Monica stared at the meal. She didn't touch it. She reached for her phone again. She connected to the in-flight Wi-Fi, paying the $25 fee without blinking. She logged into the secure company portal. She needed to verify the crew manifest. Lead flight attendant, Karen Miller. Employee ID 892201. Pilot in command, Captain Gerald Ford. First officer, David Wu. She opened the messaging app used by the executive board. She typed a message to the VP of Human Resources, who she knew was currently in the New York office waiting for her arrival. Prepare termination papers. Immediate effect. Cause, gross misconduct, discrimination, violation of Title VII, and brand damage. I am bringing the witnesses with me. She hit send. But she wasn't done yet. The humiliation wasn't over. An hour into the flight, the coffee Monica had consumed earlier caught up with her. She unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up. The first-class lavatory was located at the front of the cabin, near the cockpit door. It was spacious, stocked with designer lotions and real towels. As Monica stepped into the aisle, Karen materialized from the galley like a gatekeeper of hell. She was holding a pot of coffee, but she set it down aggressively on the counter as Monica approached. Where do you think you're going? Karen asked. To the restroom, Monica said. Karen stepped in front of the door, crossing her arms. This lavatory is out of order. Monica paused. I just saw Mr. Henderson use it 5 minutes ago. It just broke, Karen said, her smile tight and fake. Plumbing issue, very messy. Then I'll wait, Monica said. You can't wait here. You're blocking the galley. It's a security risk. Karen pointed toward the back of the plane, past the curtain. There are 3 bathrooms in economy. Use one of those. I am a first-class passenger, Monica said, her voice finally edging up in volume, drawing the attention of the cabin. I am entitled to use the facilities in this cabin. And I am the lead flight attendant, Karen retorted, her voice dripping with disdain. And I'm telling you that you are not using this bathroom. Honestly, I don't know how you people even afford these tickets. Drug money? OnlyFans? It's certainly not from hard work. The silence in the cabin was deafening. Mr. Henderson lowered his newspaper. Mrs. Vanderhoven choked on her mimosa. Monica felt the world slow down. Drug money. You people. It wasn't a microaggression anymore. It was a declaration of war. Monica didn't yell. She didn't scream. She stepped closer to Karen, so close she could smell the stale coffee and cheap perfume on the woman's uniform. "You have no idea who I am," Monica whispered, "but you are going to find out very, very soon." "Is that a threat?" Karen laughed, a shrill, nervous sound. "Are you threatening a crew member? Because I can have the pilots divert this plane. I can have you arrested the second we touch down. I can put you on the no-fly list so fast your head will spin." "Do it," Monica challenged her. "Call the captain. Tell him a passenger in 1A is refusing to be discriminated against. Go ahead." Karen hesitated. She looked at Monica's eyes, dark, intelligent, and terrifyingly calm. Doubt flickered in her gaze for the first time, but her pride was too swollen to back down. "Go to the back," Karen spat, "or I will have you zip-tied to your seat." Monica turned around. She walked back to her seat, grabbed her phone, and sat down. She didn't go to the back. She accessed the in-flight entertainment system, specifically the Contact Us feature that allowed direct feedback to corporate, but she bypassed the customer service bot. Using her administrative override code, something only the top 5 executives in the company possessed, she patched directly into the aircraft's communication log via her laptop. She wasn't just sending an email now, she was accessing the plane's digital nervous system. She pulled up the live audio feed from the cabin. The newer planes recorded ambient noise for liability reasons, a feature the union hated but management insisted on. She rewound the last 5 minutes. "Drug money? OnlyFans? It's certainly not from hard work." The audio was crisp, clear, undeniable. Monica saved the clip. She forwarded it to the CEO of Zenith Airways, the outgoing one, the head of legal, and her own personal assistant. Then she texted her assistant, Marcus. "Marcus, I need a welcoming committee at JFK Gate 42. Get security, HR, and the Port Authority police, and call the airport manager. Tell them the owner of the airline is on board and has been threatened by the crew." A moment later, 3 dots appeared. "Marcus, on it, boss. Do you want the press?" Monica looked at Karen, who was now laughing with Brad in the galley, pointing at Monica and shaking her head. "Monica, no press yet. I want to see the look on her face when she realizes she just fired herself." The plane began its descent. The fastened seatbelt sign dinged. Karen walked through the cabin for the final check. She stopped at row 1. Monica's tray table was already up, her seat vertical. Karen leaned in, her voice a poisonous whisper. "I've radioed ahead. Police are meeting the plane. You're going to jail, honey. Hope you like prison food." Monica smiled. It was a genuine, terrifying smile. "Police are definitely meeting the plane, Karen," Monica said. "Make sure you look your best." The landing gear deployed with a heavy thud. The wheels touched the tarmac. But as the plane taxied toward the gate, Monica saw something out the window. Usually, there is a single jet bridge operator. Today, the tarmac at Gate 42 was swarming. Several black SUVs with the Hayes Vanguard logo were parked right on the apron. Police cruisers were flashing their lights. Karen looked out the porthole in the galley door. Her face went pale. "What is going on? Why are there so many cops?" "Maybe," Monica said from her seat, loud enough for the whole cabin to hear. "They're here for the person who broke the law." The plane came to a halt. The engines whined down. Usually the ding sounds, and everyone stands up. But today, the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. It sounded shaky. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. Do not unbuckle your seatbelts. We have been ordered to hold the doors for a specialized boarding party." Karen looked at Brad. "Specialized boarding party? Did you call the FBI?" "I didn't call anyone," Brad squeaked. The cabin door hissed open. Karen straightened her jacket, put on her best victim face, and prepared to point out the unruly passenger in 1A. But the first person to step onto the plane wasn't a police officer. It was Marcus, Monica's assistant, holding a tablet. Behind him were two men in dark suits, corporate security, and behind them, looking terrified, was the Zenith Airways station manager. Karen stepped forward. "Thank God you're here. This passenger—" She pointed a shaking finger at Monica. Marcus walked right past Karen as if she were a ghost. He walked straight to seat 1A. "Ms. Hayes," Marcus said, bowing his head slightly. "Welcome to New York. I'm so sorry for the delay." Monica unbuckled her belt and stood up. She stretched, then turned to face the cabin. The silence was absolute. "Thank you, Marcus," Monica said. She stepped into the aisle and turned to face Karen. Karen's mouth was opening and closing like a fish on dry land. Miss Hayes? Who?" Monica reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out a lanyard she hadn't worn during the flight. She slipped it over her neck. The ID card dangled against her chest. It was gold. It read, "Monica Hayes, owner and chairman Hayes Vanguard/Zenith Airways." "You asked for my ID earlier," Monica said, her voice projecting to the back of the cabin. "I thought I should show you the one that matters." Karen's knees actually buckled. She grabbed the galley counter for support. I didn't know. I thought—" "You thought I was nobody," Monica cut her off. "You thought you could degrade me, starve me, and threaten me because of how I look. You thought you were the queen of this sky." Monica turned to the station manager. "Is the termination paperwork ready?" "Yes, ma'am," the manager squeaked, handing over a folder. Monica took the folder. She handed it to Karen. "Karen Miller," Monica said. "You are relieved of duty. Effective immediately. You are banned from Zenith Airways property, and you are barred from flying with us as a passenger for life." You can't do this," Karen whispered, tears streaming down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. "I have seniority. The union—" "The union," Monica said coldly, "doesn't protect hate speech. We have the audio recordings. We have the witnesses." She gestured to Mr. Henderson and Mrs. Vanderhoven. "I assume you two will be willing to provide statements about the drug money comments?" Mr. Henderson, realizing which way the wind was blowing, nodded vigorously. "Absolutely, Ms. Hayes. Appalling behavior. I was just about to write a letter myself." Monica turned back to Karen. "Grab your bag. Get off my plane." But the drama wasn't over. As Karen sobbed, the cockpit door opened. Captain Ford stepped out looking furious. "What is going on here?" the captain boomed. "Nobody treats my crew like this. I don't care who you are. You don't disrupt my flight." Monica looked at the captain. She tilted her head. Captain Ford," she said. "I was wondering when you'd join us. Did you authorize the lavatory is broken lie, or was that freelance work?" "I run this ship," Ford yelled, "and I order you to—" "Marcus," Monica said, not looking away from the captain. "Suspend the flight crew pending investigation. If the pilot knew what was happening and did nothing, he goes too." "You can't fire me," Ford roared. "I'm the captain." "And I," Monica said, stepping closer, "am the person who signs your paychecks as of Monday morning. Get your things, Captain. You're grounded." The air inside the cabin of Flight 902 had turned from a vacuum of tension into a pressure cooker of shock. The silence that followed Monica's revelation, that she was the owner of the very airline Karen and Captain Ford worked for, was broken only by the hum of the auxiliary power unit and the ragged breathing of the woman who had just realized her life was over. Karen stood in the galley, her knuckles white as she gripped the handle of a coffee pot she had forgotten to put down. Her face, usually a mask of haughty disdain, was crumbling. It wasn't just fear. It was a malfunction of her reality. People like her didn't get fired. People like her didn't get embarrassed. People like her were the gatekeepers, and Monica Hayes was supposed to be the one begging for entry. "This is illegal," Karen stammered, her voice pitching up, cracking. You can't just fire me on a plane. I have a union rep. I have rights." You had rights, Monica said, her voice dropping to a register that vibrated with absolute authority. She didn't shout. She didn't need to. You had the right to treat every passenger with dignity. You had the right to do your job. You forfeited those rights when you decided my skin color determined my worthiness for a meal. Monica turned to the two corporate security officers, towering men in charcoal suits who looked like they were carved from granite. Escort Ms. Miller and Captain Ford off the aircraft. Take their badges. Take their airport security clearance cards. They are to be escorted to the public curb, not the crew lounge. They are no longer crew. The public curb? Captain Ford sputtered, his face a mottled red. I am a senior pilot. I will not be dragged through the terminal like a common criminal. Then you should have behaved like a captain, Monica replied, turning her back on him. The scene that followed was a masterclass in humiliation. The security officers moved with efficient brutality. They didn't rough them up physically, but they stripped them of their authority with surgical precision. One officer held out a hand, palm up. Badges. Now. With shaking hands, Karen unclipped her wings. The gold plastic pin, the symbol of her 20 years of seniority, clattered onto the metal galley counter. Then her ID lanyard. She looked naked without them. Captain Ford, fuming, threw his hat onto the floor before handing over his credentials. As they were marched down the aisle, the economy cabin, which had been held back from deplaning, watched in wide-eyed fascination. The curtain had been pulled back. They saw the first-class flight attendant, the one who had snapped at a grandmother for asking for extra water earlier, being led away by security. Brad, the junior flight attendant, was pressed against the bulkhead, trying to merge with the plastic paneling. He looked like a deer caught in the headlights of a semi-truck. Monica stopped in front of him. Brad flinched. I didn't say anything, Ms. Hayes, Brad whispered, his voice trembling. I just did what she told me. She's the lead. I'm on probation. If I disobeyed... Monica looked at him. Her eyes were softer than they had been with Karen, but they were still steel. You served me tap water in a plastic cup while everyone else got crystal. You saw her hide the meals. You heard her slurs. I was scared, Brad admitted, tears welling in his eyes. Fear is a reason, Brad. It is not an excuse, Monica said. You are suspended pending a retraining review. You won't be fired today. But if you ever stand by silently while a colleague abuses a passenger again, you will never work in aviation in this country. Do you understand? Yes. Yes, ma'am, thank you. Brad slumped with relief. Monica walked off the plane. The jet bridge felt different now. It didn't feel like an obstacle. It felt like a runway. But the real drama awaited inside Terminal 4. News travels fast in an airport. The specialized boarding party announcement had triggered rumors. By the time Karen and Captain Ford were marched out of the gate door and into the bright fluorescent glare of the terminal, a crowd had gathered, and phones were out. Dozens of smartphones were held aloft, cameras recording. The sight of a pilot and a lead flight attendant being escorted by corporate security and Port Authority police was catnip for social media. Karen, seeing the cameras, made a fatal calculation. She decided to play the victim. "Help!" she screamed, throwing herself toward a group of travelers near a Hudson newsstand. "I'm being attacked! They're kidnapping me! Help!" The security officer tightened his grip on her arm, keeping her moving. "Ma'am, stop making a scene." "It's her!" Karen shrieked, pointing back at Monica, who was emerging from the gate, flanked by Marcus and her team. "That woman! She assaulted me on the plane! She's crazy! She says she owns the airline, but she's a maniac!" The crowd murmured. A few people looked at Monica with suspicion. The angry black woman narrative was a powerful weapon, and Karen knew how to wield it. Monica didn't stop. She didn't hide her face. She walked straight through the gauntlet of lenses. A young woman with a travel blog aimed her phone right at Monica. "Is it true? Did you attack the crew?" Monica paused. The terminal went quiet. She looked directly into the camera lens. "I fired a crew that thought racism was part of their job description," Monica said, her voice clear and projecting. "Zenith Airways is under new management, and the trash is being taken out." She kept walking. Behind her, Karen was still screaming as she was pushed through the revolving doors and onto the curbside pavement. The humidity of the New York summer hit her, but it was the cold realization of her future that made her shiver. She stood there, sans badge, sans job, sans dignity, watching the sleek black SUV convoy pick up Monica Hayes. As the lead SUV pulled away, Karen pulled out her phone. She didn't call her husband. She didn't call her mother. She dialed a number she had saved from a billboard near the employee parking lot. Snyder and Associates. Aggressive litigation. We sue for you. "Hello?" Karen said, her voice trembling with rage. "I want to sue someone. I want to sue them for everything they have. I want to destroy Monica Hayes." The headquarters of Hayes Vanguard Global occupied the top 10 floors of a Glass Needle in Midtown Manhattan. The views commanded the entire island, a visual metaphor for Monica's dominance in the business world. But on Sunday morning, the mood in the boardroom was not one of triumph. It was a war room. The immense mahogany table was strewn with tablets, legal briefs, and coffee cups. Monica sat at the head, wearing a crisp white blazer that made her look like a modern-day general. Marcus, her assistant, was projecting a Twitter feed onto the wall-sized screen. Hashtag Boycott Zenith was trending, but not for the reasons Monica had hoped. "The narrative is splitting," Marcus said, rubbing his temples. "Karen Miller went to the Daily Mail and Fox News within 2 hours of landing. Her story is creative." On the screen, a headline screamed, "Single mother stewardess fired by woke billionaire CEO for not smiling enough." Another read, "Air rage, CEO Monica Hayes accused of assaulting pilot mid-flight." "She's claiming you threw the tray at her," the head of legal, a sharp woman named Eleanor, said, reading from a cease and desist letter that had just arrived. "She claims you were verbally abusive, demanded free alcohol, and when she refused due to safety protocols, you used your wealth to intimidate the crew. Captain Ford is backing her story. He says he came out of the cockpit to protect his crew from a deranged passenger." Monica laughed, but it was a dry, humorless sound. Deranged, of course, because a black woman demanding service she paid for must be crazy. "The pilots' union is threatening a walkout," the COO added, looking pale. "They're saying this is an unlawful termination without due process. They want Ford reinstated and a public apology by noon tomorrow, or they ground the fleet. That's 300 flights, Monica. It'll bankrupt the acquisition before the ink is dry." The room fell silent. This was the trap. The old guard was circling the wagons. They were betting that Monica cared more about the stock price than the truth. They were betting she would cut a check to make it go away. Monica stood up and walked to the window. She looked down at the ants moving along Fifth Avenue. "Do you know why I bought Zenith?" Monica asked softly. The executives exchanged glances. "Because the valuation was low?" the CFO suggested. "Because their transatlantic routes are profitable?" "No," Monica turned. "I bought it because 20 years ago my father was kicked off a Zenith flight. He was traveling to a heart specialist in Boston. The crew said he looked suspicious because he was sweating. He was having a heart attack. They deplaned him. He died in the terminal." The room went dead silent. Nobody moved. "I vowed that day that I would burn that culture to the ground," Monica said, her eyes blazing. "So let the union threaten. Let Karen lie. We aren't settling. We aren't apologizing." "But the PR director started. "Eleanor," Monica barked at the lawyer, "the NDA clause in the Zenith employee contract. Does it cover disparaging the brand?" "Yes, but she's claiming whistleblower status," Eleanor said. "Pull her file," Monica ordered. "Not just her personnel file. I want her digital footprint. I want the complaints that were swept under the rug by the previous management." HR has a ghost file. Every company like this does. Find it. And the video? Marcus asked. The cabin recording? We hold it, Monica said. Let them lie. Let them go on every morning show and dig their graves so deep they can't climb out. When they have committed fully to the lie, that's when we drop the hammer. And the captain? Check his flight logs against his bar tabs, Monica said coldly. I smelled gin on him when he came out of that cockpit. If he was flying under the influence, I don't care about the union. The FAA will bury him. Just then, Marcus's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his eyes widened. Boss, he said, you need to see this. Karen is live, right now. He switched the main screen to a news feed. It was a national morning show. Karen was sitting on a beige couch, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Her lawyer, a man who looked like he was made of hair gel and cheap cologne, sat next to her, a protective hand on her shoulder. I just wanted to do my job, Karen sobbed on screen. She came on board looking for a fight. She was wearing a hoodie looking like a thug, and when I asked to check her bag for safety, she snapped. She told me she would buy me and sell me. It was terrifying. I'm just a working mom trying to pay my mortgage. The host leaned in sympathetically. And she fired you right there? On the tarmac? She left me on the curb, Karen cried. Like garbage. Monica watched the screen. Her face was impassive, but her hands were clenched into fists at her sides. Thug, Monica repeated the word. She actually said it on national TV. This is bad, Monica, the CFO said nervously. The stock is down 4% in pre-market trading. The board is freaking out. They want you to issue a statement of regret. Monica picked up the remote and turned off the TV. Marcus, she said, get the editor. We're putting together a video. The cabin footage? Everything, Monica said. The audio from the plane, the security footage from the gate where she grabbed my phone, and whatever you find in that ghost file. We aren't just going to fire her. We are going to make her the face of everything wrong with this industry. She looked at her team. Prepare the press conference for tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., and invite the union reps. Tell them to bring their popcorn. Sunday night was a sleepless blur of strategy and caffeine. While Monica's team worked in the glass tower, the internet was doing what it did best. Polarizing. Karen's interview had gone viral. It tapped into a vein of resentment in the country. Comment sections were filled with vitriol against elites and affirmative action CEOs. Memes appeared mocking Monica's hoodie. A GoFundMe page for Karen titled Justice for Karen, Wrongfully Terminated Hero, had already raised $50,000. It was a coordinated smear campaign. Bots were amplifying the hate. It was professional, rapid, and ugly. Monica sat in her office, reading the comments. Who does she think she is? Probably slept her way to the top. Boycott Hayes Vanguard. It hurt. It would always hurt. No matter how much money she had, no matter how many degrees she hung on the wall, to a large part of the world, she was just a target. But pain was fuel. At 3 a.m., Eleanor walked in, holding a thick file folder. She looked exhausted but triumphant. We found it, Eleanor said, dropping the file on Monica's desk. The ghost file. Monica opened it. It was a log of complaints against Karen Miller dating back 15 years. 2012. Passenger complaint. Refused to serve a Hispanic family because she didn't think they could understand the menu. Swept under the rug. 2015. Complaint from a junior flight attendant. Karen used racial slurs in the galley. The junior attendant was transferred. Karen was promoted. 2019. Incident report. Karen called airport security on a Sikh man for looking nervous. He was a doctor flying to a conference. No disciplinary action taken. There were dozens of them. A pattern of systemic, unchecked prejudice. And the captain? Monica asked. Better, Eleanor grinned, a shark-like expression. We pulled the cockpit voice recorder data and the telemetry, but we also checked the airport bar receipts. Captain Ford closed out a tab at the runway lounge 45 minutes before boarding. 3 double gin and tonics. He flew my plane drunk, Monica whispered. The rage was cold now, calculated. We have them, Monica. We can destroy them. Not just destroy, Monica said, closing the file. We need to educate. If we just destroy them, they become martyrs for their cause. We need to show the world exactly who they are. Monday, 9 a.m. The press conference. The atrium of the Hayes Vanguard building was packed. Every major network was there. The flashbulbs were blinding. Karen's lawyer had issued a statement an hour earlier, demanding $50 million in damages for defamation and emotional distress. They were doubling down. Monica walked onto the stage. She wasn't wearing a hoodie today. She was wearing a blood-red power suit that looked like armor. She stood at the podium, silence falling over the room. Yesterday, Monica began, her voice steady. I was accused of being an angry woman. I was accused of terrorism. I was accused of being a thug. She paused, looking at the cameras. I am none of those things. I am a CEO. I am a customer, and I am a human being who expects dignity. Ms. Hayes, a reporter from a tabloid shouted. Is it true you physically assaulted the flight attendant? Let's look at the tape, Monica said. She pointed to the massive screen behind her. The video played. It wasn't the shaky cell phone footage from the terminal. It was the high-definition security footage from the gate. The room watched as Karen snatched the phone from Monica's hand. They saw the sneer. They saw the physical blocking of the aisle. Then the audio from the cabin played. The clarity was devastating. Those are reserved for valued customers. You get what's left. Drug money? OnlyFans? It's certainly not from hard work. The gasp in the room was audible. The reporters, who had been ready to tear Monica apart, suddenly froze. The cruelty in Karen's voice was undeniable. It was raw, unfiltered hate. That, Monica said, is the woman who claims she was terrorized. But that is not all. The screen changed. A spreadsheet appeared. Karen Miller has had 42 formal discrimination complaints filed against her in 15 years. 42. Zenith Airways' previous management buried every single one. They protected a predator because she had seniority. The image changed again. A receipt from the runway lounge, time-stamped, followed by a toxicology report. And Captain Ford, Monica said, her voice turning to ice, the man who claimed he was protecting his crew from me, he was operating a commercial airliner with a blood alcohol level of 0.09. He wasn't protecting anyone. He was endangering 200 souls. The room erupted. Shutters clicked like machine gun fire. The narrative wasn't just shifting. It was capsizing. Monica leaned into the microphone. To the union representatives threatening to strike, she said, looking directly at the camera. I dare you. Strike in support of a racist and a drunk. See how that plays out for you. Or you can join me in cleaning up this airline and making it safe for everyone. She picked up her papers. As of this morning, Hayes Vanguard has formally filed a countersuit against Karen Miller and Captain Ford for breach of contract, defamation, and corporate sabotage. We are also forwarding all evidence to the FAA and the district attorney. We aren't just firing them, we are ensuring they never hold a position of trust again. She started to walk off stage. Ms. Hayes! Ms. Hayes! The reporters screamed. What happens to the airline now? Monica stopped. She looked back over her shoulder. Now, she smiled. Now we start serving everyone. But the twist wasn't over. As Monica walked backstage, Marcus handed her his phone. You need to see this. It's Karen. She's at the courthouse. Surrendering? No, Marcus said grimly. She's live streaming. She says the video is a deep fake. She's rallying her followers to storm the Zenith offices at JFK. There's a mob forming, Monica. They're breaking windows. Monica stopped. The victory at the press conference was just the beginning. The beast she had poked was thrashing. "Get the car," Monica said. "We're going to the airport." "Monica, that's dangerous," Eleanor warned. "Let the police handle it." "No," Monica said. "This started at the airport. It ends at the airport. If she wants a war, she gets a war." The scene at JFK's Terminal 4 was less like an airport and more like a battleground of ideologies. By the time Monica's convoy of black SUVs screeched to a halt at the curbside departures level, the crowd had swelled to nearly 300 people. They were a chaotic mix of internet trolls, genuine activists who had been misled by Karen's sob story, and opportunists looking for content. Signs bobbed above the sea of heads. Justice for Karen, stop billionaire bullies, and fake news, fake video. Karen Miller stood atop a concrete planter near the sliding glass doors, a megaphone in her hand. She looked manic. Her hair was disheveled, her uniform jacket missing, replaced by a sympathetic mom cardigan she must have pulled from her luggage. "She's coming to silence us!" Karen screamed into the megaphone, the sound distorting. "She used AI to fake that video. She has billions of dollars to erase the truth. Are we going to let her?" "No!" the crowd roared back. Inside the SUV, Marcus watched the scene with wide eyes. "Monica, we can't go out there. Security is overwhelmed. The Port Authority is suggesting we enter through the tarmac side." Monica adjusted her cuffs. She checked her reflection in the rearview mirror. She didn't see fear. She saw the end game. "If I sneak in the back door," Monica said, her voice calm, "I validate her narrative. I become the shadowy elite she claims I am. No, we go through the front." "They might throw things," Eleanor warned. "Let them," Monica said. "I want the world to see exactly who they are." Monica opened the door. The moment her foot touched the pavement, the atmosphere shifted. A ripple of recognition went through the crowd. The billionaire bully was here. Corporate security formed a phalanx around her, a diamond formation of muscle and dark suits. They moved forward, pushing gently but firmly through the mass of bodies. "Shame! Shame!" people chanted. A plastic water bottle flew through the air, bouncing off a security guard's shoulder. Monica didn't flinch. She kept her eyes locked on Karen, who was perched on the planter 20 yards away. Karen saw her. For a second, the megaphone lowered. Fear flickered in her eyes, the primal realization that the predator had entered the clearing. But then, the roar of the crowd intoxicated her again. "There she is!" Karen shrieked, pointing a trembling finger. "The woman who assaulted me! Look at her! She thinks she owns us!" Monica reached the center of the plaza. She signaled to her head of security. "Stop." The phalanx halted. Monica stepped out from the protective bubble. She was exposed. "Karen!" Monica's voice cut through the noise. She didn't need a megaphone. She had command presence that had silenced boardrooms in Tokyo and London. "Come down!" "I'm not coming down!" Karen yelled, her voice cracking. "I'm safe here! The people are with me!" "The people are lied to," Monica replied. She held up her phone. It was connected to the massive digital billboard that loomed over the terminal entrance, a screen usually reserved for luxury watch ads. Monica had bought the ad space 5 minutes ago. "You say the video is a deepfake?" Monica challenged. "You say I wasn't in seat 1A? You say you never used those slurs?" "It's all computer-generated," Karen cried, looking at her followers for validation. "She's a tech mogul. She can fake anything." "Then explain this," Monica said. She tapped her phone. The giant billboard above the terminal flickered. The ad for a Swiss watch vanished. Live footage appeared. But it wasn't from the plane. It was from the crowd itself. A young man in the front row, holding a Justice for Karen sign, looked confused. He was streaming live on TikTok. The billboard switched feeds. It showed a video recorded 3 minutes ago inside the terminal. It was Brad. The young flight attendant stood next to the station manager and, crucially, Mr. Henderson and Mrs. van der Hoven, the 2 witnesses from first class. They were standing in front of a news crew. The audio boomed over the plaza speakers, drowning out Karen's megaphone. "It wasn't fake," Brad said on the giant screen, his face tear-streaked but determined. "I was there. Karen told me to give Ms. Hayes tap water. She told me to hide the meals, and I heard her call Ms. Hayes a thug. I heard the drug money comment. It was real. We were all terrified of her." "Mr." Henderson stepped up to the mic on the screen. "I've flown with Karen Miller for 10 years. She has always been rude to anyone who didn't look like me. What happened on that plane was vile. Ms. Hayes was a saint for not throwing her out the window at 30,000 feet. The crowd in the plaza went silent. The deepfake narrative wasn't just cracking, it was shattering. Here were the other passengers. Here was her own colleague. Monica looked up at Karen. "The lie is over, Karen," Monica said. "You aren't a martyr. You're just a bully who got caught." The crowd turned. The energy shifted from support to disgust. People lowered their signs. The live streamers turned their cameras from Monica to Karen, capturing the realization washing over her face. Karen looked around. She saw the support evaporating. She saw the disgust in the eyes of the people she had manipulated. She dropped the megaphone. It clattered on the concrete with a hollow thud. I was just stressed," Karen whimpered, her voice barely audible without the amplification. "I was having a bad day." "You had a bad 15 years, Monica said cold. "And now the bill is due." Port Authority police moved in. Not for Monica, for Karen. "Karen Miller," an officer said, reaching up to help her down from the planter. "We need you to come with us. Incitement to riot, disorderly conduct, and we have a warrant for fraud regarding the GoFundMe campaign." As Karen was handcuffed, the flash of cameras was blinding. But this time she didn't scream for help. She hung her head, the mom cardigan slipping off her shoulder to reveal the stain of sweat and desperation. Monica didn't stay to watch the arrest. She turned back to her team. "Let's go," she said. "We have an airline to rebuild." The legal dismantling of Karen Miller and Captain Gerald Ford was not a battle. It was an autopsy. 3 months had passed since the incident at JFK. The leaves in Central Park had turned to gold, and the branding on Zenith Airways planes was already being painted over with the sleek silver and indigo livery of the newly formed Vanguard Air. But inside the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan, the ghosts of the old regime were being exorcised. Monica sat in the front row of the gallery. She didn't need to be there. Her lawyers had everything under control, but she wanted to be. She needed to witness the final turn of the wheel. Karen sat at the defendant's table. She looked smaller now. The blonde hair was dull, the roots showing gray. The arrogance that had defined her presence in the first-class cabin was gone, replaced by a jittery, hollowed-out exhaustion. She was facing a multi-pronged assault. Hayes Vanguard was suing her for defamation and breach of contract. The donors to her GoFundMe were suing her for fraud after it was revealed she used the first $10,000 to pay off credit card debt unrelated to her legal defense. And the FAA had permanently revoked her certification. But the most damning blow came from the witness stand. Captain Gerald Ford sat there. He looked terrible. His skin was sallow, his hands shaking, the tremors of withdrawal. He had cut a deal. To reduce his own jail time for operating an aircraft under the influence, he had agreed to testify about the culture of the airline. "Mr. Ford?" Monica's lawyer Eleanor asked, pacing the floor. "Did Mrs. Miller ever express to you her reasons for targeting Mrs. Hayes?" Ford coughed, avoiding Karen's gaze. "Yes." "And what were those reasons?" "She came into the cockpit before takeoff," Ford rasped. "She looked at the manifest. She saw the name Hayes. She said, one of them is in 1A. Probably thinks she owns the place. I'm going to put her in her place." A gasp rippled through the courtroom. "And did you intervene?" Eleanor asked. "No," Ford whispered. "I laughed. I told her to have fun with it." Karen put her head in her hands. The narrative of the stressed working mother. was dead. This was premeditated malice. The judge, a stern woman who brooked no nonsense, looked at Karen with unmasked disdain. The verdict, when it came 2 days later, was devastating. The jury found Karen Miller liable for defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The damages were set at $4 million, money Karen would never have, ensuring she would be in debt for the rest of her life. But the criminal charges were the hard karma. For the fraud regarding the charity funds and for the falsifying of federal aviation reports, the incident log she had forged, Karen was sentenced to 24 months in a federal correctional facility. Captain Ford, for the DUI, received 18 months and a lifetime ban from aviation. As the bailiff moved to take Karen into custody, she looked back at the gallery. She locked eyes with Monica. There was no hate left in Karen's eyes, only confusion. She still didn't understand how the world had turned on her so completely. She mouthed something. "I'm sorry." Monica didn't smile. She didn't nod. She simply watched. An apology born of consequences is not an apology. It is a negotiation, and Monica Hayes was done negotiating. She stood up, smoothed her skirt, and walked out of the courtroom. Outside on the courthouse steps, the press was waiting. But the vibe was different now. The hostility was gone. "Miss Hayes, Miss Hayes," a reporter called out. "Do you feel justice was served?" Monica stopped at the microphones. The winter wind bit at her face, but she felt warm. "Justice isn't a verdict," Monica said. "Justice is a culture. We removed 2 people who poisoned the sky, but the real work is ensuring that the next time a young black woman walks onto a plane in a hoodie, she is seen as a passenger, not a suspect." "What's next for you?" another reporter asked. "I have a flight to catch," Monica said. "And I hear the service is much better these days." The rebranding was complete. Zenith Airways was dead. Vanguard Air was the new titan of the skies. The culture shift had been seismic. Monica hadn't just fired the bad apples, she had burned down the orchard and planted new seeds. She implemented blind hiring practices for management, mandatory bias training that was actually rigorous, and a zero-tolerance policy that allowed any crew member to report discrimination anonymously via an encrypted app. But the biggest change was visible at Gate 42. Monica walked down the jet bridge, carrying the same leather weekender bag she had carried on that fateful day. She was wearing a hoodie, a deliberate choice. It was now part of the company ethos: respect the passenger, not the wardrobe. She stepped onto the plane. The interior had been gutted and redesigned. The cramped, beige aesthetic of the old Zenith was gone, replaced by cool blues, warm lighting, and ergonomic seats. "Welcome aboard, Ms. Hayes," a voice said. Monica looked up. Standing at the door, wearing the sharp new charcoal and silver uniform of Vanguard Air, was Brad. He looked different. The fear was gone. He stood taller. On his lapel was a silver pin, Senior Purser. "Hello, Brad," Monica smiled. "How is the crew today?" "Excellent, ma'am," Brad beamed. "We're fully boarded. On time. And," he lowered his voice conspiratorially, "we saved the rack of lamb for 1A, just in case." Monica laughed. It was a light, free sound. "I think I'll have the chicken. I hear the new chef is amazing." She moved to her seat. As she settled in, she looked out the window. Below, on the tarmac, the ground crew was loading luggage. It was raining, a miserable gray New York drizzle. A baggage cart rattled past. Driving it was a woman in a neon yellow poncho, struggling with the heavy bags. The rain lashed against her face. The woman looked up for a fleeting second, wiping grease and rain from her eyes. It wasn't Karen. Karen was currently sitting in a cell in Danbury. But the woman reminded Monica of the fragility of power. This woman was working hard, doing a thankless job. Monica pressed the call button. Brad appeared instantly. "Yes, Ms. Hayes." "That ground crew member driving the cart?" Monica pointed. When we land, I want you to get her name. Send her a voucher for 2 round-trip tickets anywhere we fly, first class. Brad smiled, understanding. Paying it forward? No, Monica said, reclining her seat as the engines roared to life, a sound of pure, unbridled power. Just reminding everyone that nobody stays at the bottom forever unless we keep them there, and nobody stays at the top unless they earn it. The plane taxied out. The engines surged. As the aircraft defied gravity, lifting Monica Hayes above the clouds, above the rain, and above the hate that had tried to ground her, she finally closed her eyes and slept. The sky belonged to everyone now. Prejudice is an expensive luxury that no business and no human being can afford. Karen Miller thought her uniform gave her the power to judge, but she forgot that true power lies in service, dignity, and respect. In the end, she lost her career, her freedom, and her reputation because she judged a book by its cover, never realizing that the book owned the library. If you believe that respect should be the first rule of service, hit that like button. Have you ever been judged by your appearance? Tell us your story in the comments below. We read every single one. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for more stories where karma delivers the ultimate justice. Fly safe and be kind.